The big club in Canada now is the HA. So they were out west, and they were huge out west. They've been out there for as long as the Outlaws have been in Ontario. My name is Bob. I'm a retired member of the Outlaws Motorcycle Club in Canada, and I'm chatting with Stacks.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Stacks. I'm your host, Bill Stacks, and today I got retired 1%er Bob from Biker News Canada.
No, I didn't take no gun inside. The defense was I took the gun inside.
So they're trying to put it on you, basically, like covering it up.
Yeah.
And you really don't have any idea of what's going on, right? You're inside the club while the shots are going off, so...
Right. See, and we figured we knew who it was because the older brother of them two guys was known as a shooter, and he wasn't no slouch. And he took an open hand slap in the middle of a strip bar in front of him. You know what I mean? I think that was enough for him to say, "F it." I'm doing what I'm doing. So he got out there and waited for him. And there was one of my buddies was in there. One of our buddies, not my buddies. So the club is the general's buddies in the car with them two guys. And I guess from what he told people as they were arguing, the young one said, "You can't let him get away with that. You can't let him do that." And so they drove around the front of the building, parked it up so they had a quick escape, got out of the car and got ready and waited for them two guys to come out.
Wow.
It was a short wait. They were kind of done what they were doing after the tussle and all that. You don't hang around, right?
Yeah.
You get moving.
They were ready when they left.
Yep, they were ready. He just started squeezing, and whatever happened, he was good with. Yep.
When they get killed, what happens with you? Do you go to the funeral and that's your roommate? So what transpires with you?
So that was the big thing that the club paid me a lot of respect, showed me a lot of respect that they didn't have to, man. But I've been hanging around for 5 years, and I've been coming to every club event in the Canada part, which was Ontario basically. So, and I've been there, and they would have me behind the bar if there was no probates around at the time and shit like that to help them out. So I was already getting treated like I was a member. At the funeral, my motorcycle was still in the shop because it's early April. Actually, it's only a couple of days from now, isn't it? Like tomorrow or something, isn't it? Today?
It's April 6th now.
Yeah. Tomorrow's the anniversary. So I borrowed the bar owner, the strip joint guy. I borrowed his motorcycle. He had a nice bike. My ex-old lady got in the back. Holmes handed me a probate patch and a bunch of guys' probate patches. And I was a pallbearer for Willie.
And you had your probate patch while you did the pallbearing.
Yeah. They sent outlaws up from America, who could cross the border. It was a big deal, man. There was a lot of things going on. It was busy, right? Really, really busy weekend.
So what was going on in the landscape in Canada at the time?
Well, see, at the time, the big club in Canada now is the HA. So they were out west, and they were huge out west. They've been out there for as long as the Outlaws have been in Ontario. They were also to the east of us in Quebec, and they were huge in Quebec too. There used to be an outlaw chapter when I first started hanging around in Montreal, and one by one they got picked off until the last two guys just fled the province. They're like, "We can't do this, man. We can't hold it down, and you guys ain't sending nobody from Ontario to back us." So they split, right? So our thing was Ontario, and we were the biggest club in Ontario. So we were rolling. There was a couple other clubs that weren't to be effed with, and we left them in their cities, and they left us in our cities, and it was pretty easy living back then.
But who was the other big club in Ontario? Wasn't there Rock Machine there?
The Rock Machine was in Montreal as well. They were fighting the big war with the HA for all them years. In Ontario, there's another club back then. It was called the Satan's Choice. They've since become Hell's Angels. And the way that the Outlaws got in Canada was They thought they had all of the state and choice chapters. It was the only big club in Canada at the time. A famous guy named Bernie started them. There's books about him. He's pretty famous. He started like way back in the 60s before I was probably a twinkle in my daddy's eye. He was riding motorcycles, right? So he's
Yeah.
been around. And so what happened was they thought they had all the choice guys were going to flip to outlaw, and only about half of them did, and half of them stayed loyal to Bernie and stayed Satan's choice. And then years and years and years down the road, Bernie's is Bernie dead? I don't think he might be dead. I don't know for sure though. I met him a couple times at meetings, but eventually they joined up with the HA when they decided they wanted to come to Ontario. And we went to bed one day. There wasn't any Hell's Angels in Ontario. We woke up the next day and there was 300 and some odd. What are you gonna do?
That's crazy. So everything's smooth, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're everywhere.
Damn, man. And it was like, what? We were keeping tabs. We knew which clubs were friendly with them, and they would go on their national runs. So you knew, right? There's really no secrets in the biker world, but there was one secret, and it's the one that kind of cost us the most, right? The Rock Machine at that time had been having peace meetings with the Hells Angels at the Montreal courthouse that we were aware of. And they had started sending emissaries in Ontario to hang out with those outlaws. There would be, an enemy of my enemy is a friend of mine sort of mindset. And we're hanging out, and great big dude named Sasquatch. He was down here all the time, romancing us. Well, a bunch of our guys in our Toronto chapter got mad about some politics and quit being outlaws. So they joined the Rock Machine. So that was the first Rock Machine chapter in Ontario. Well, these peace talks, and it became unveiled when they patched over all the Ontario clubs. So all these guys from Ontario from their clubs, they left as a unit. Boom, down the highway they went to Montreal with whatever their patch was, be it Paradise Riders, be it Los Lobos, be it State's Choice, be it whatever it was, and came on back with a fully minted Hell's Angel patch, including the Rock Machine. So the Rock Machine pulled a sneaky on us and joined our enemy, as it were, right?
So what starts transpiring once this happens? What starts going on?
See what, and after that happens, it's going to be a show. So, in my personal level, I had a friend who was a business partner who owned that strip joint I worked at for all them years. Well, his dad owned it, but anyways, it ended up being his. So him and I had some rub and tugs together. I still pulled some money out of the strip joint, even though I didn't work there anymore physically. I still helped, do whatever. We were taking down the girls, right? Making them rent lockers, do whatever you got to do to get some money, right? And he went and became a prospect. So he calls me to a meeting. He's like, "Hey, man, I got to tell you this." And he was straight about it. He wasn't hiding or being a dink about it. He's like, "I started prospecting for the Hells Angels in the Toronto North chapter." I'm like, "Oh, man, what are you doing?" So I kind of reached, and he knew. And he's like, no, you don't need that. I said, "Well, it feels like I do, man. But anyways, carry on." And there was me, him, and another guy. So him and the other guy were standing pointing at me, and I was standing pointing at them. Now I'm starting to feel a little uncomfortable, right? Like, what the? So he gave me the offer options. He said, "You can come with me." And, maybe looking back, maybe I should have taken him up on that. Who knows? He's doing quite well at it. Or he'd buy me out of my end. Or we could have have a bait. So I chose the middle. I said, "Well, we'll buy me out." And then I said, "But you got to give me your word that you won't bring that club to my city." Which, of course, he gave me his word, which, of course, he broke right away. He didn't give a shit about me.
So are you seeing these guys around a lot?
Oh, yeah. All of a sudden, they're everywhere, man. They had us outnumbered, I think, what, 10-1? Maybe 5-1. Like, it was a show. And they took some big guys, some serious guys. Like, it was no less serious than the guys we had on our team. So if the bullet can go one way, it can go the other way too. So we had to watch what we did and watch where we went and stuff like that. One of my new members went over to their clubhouse, uh, drunk. I just wanted to talk. And me and Holmes are riding by on our bikes from downtown, and we see this guy out front of their clubhouse because they opened their clubhouse right around the corner from us. They were doing everything they could to stick their finger in our eye, right? And this guy's getting beat up on their front. And then all of a sudden, about an hour later, it's our guy, and he comes walking in our clubhouse all bloody and shit. Well, you know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing over there, man?
Were they trying to take your guys' patches?